This is NC Spin, an unrehearsed discussion on issues of interest to North Carolinians. Now, here is your moderator, Tom Campbell.
Welcome. You've heard and read the spin the media and the politicians have put on the issues of the day. We want to hear the spin our young people give. NC Spin's been proud to have been associated with the outstanding young men and women of 4-H for many years. And at least once a year, we like to have a panel of 4-Hers on the show to let us hear what they're thinking. So let's introduce you to our panel of experts. They include Joel Bickley from Lake Lure, a student at Early College High School in Rutherford County. Austin Dew from Bailey, a sophomore at Greenfield School in Wilson. We've got Claire Parrish from Elizabethtown, a senior at West Bladen High School. And Joelle Dixon from Kinston, who's a senior at Kinston High School. Well, we hear a lot about the millennial generation, which is soon to be larger than Generation X and Y. Let's find out more about them. First of all, I'm going to ask each of you, how would you describe your generation and what sets you apart from previous age groups? Joa, I'll start with you.
I think that our age is really based on technology. And I know that's a kind of a cliche answer, but it's definitely true. And we see a lot of that in research that's being done with new inventions that haven't even been thought of even 5 or 7 years ago. So I think that's probably the biggest thing in our generation.
How would you describe it, Austin?
I think that our generation they want to live their life at a fast pace, and they never slow down or barely ever slow down to really think about what's going on. And I think that one thing that our generation is going to be challenged with is actually to slow down and think about certain topics.
Good. Claire, how would you describe it?
We are really technology based, but one thing about that is our great-grandparents, our grandparents, their parents were telling them the same things about electricity. It's something that you get used to, and it's something that people adjust to, and it's not as dramatic as people want to make it out to be.
Joel, how would you describe this generation?
I would describe our generation as more diverse and definitely more outspoken because we do have a great tool, social media, which allows us to have a bigger voice than is usual.
You just fed me into my next topic, which is how do you folks get your news about current events? Do you use television, newspapers, the internet, social media, or what? Joel, I'll start with you since you raised it.
I definitely use, I read the newspaper. I do use social media a lot, and I get it a lot off of television.
Interesting. Claire?
I get mine wholly online. I start off usually at yahoo.com. For international news sources, I like Al Jazeera, and the UK's The Independent.
How about state and local?
That would also be from online. Some of the sites have specific ones for states in America.
All right, so you're not into television news or newspapers?
Not particularly.
All right, Austin, where do you get your news?
I get a little bit of the local news from the local newspaper, but most of my news I get from TV.
The regular TV, on-air TV
such as
newspaper.
WRAL or Fox News.
All right. Joel, where do you get your news?
I grew up without having a TV, and I actually normally get my news from the radio. I normally listen to it with my family in the car, so we spend a lot of time in the car driving places. I also like to read the local newspaper just to know what's going on in my county and such. So.
Joel, you like to keep up with politics, you say, in public affairs. How do you view the state of North Carolina today? I think we'd be interested in knowing how you folks look at what's going on in North Carolina. Are we moving ahead, standing still, moving backward? What do you think?
Well, for a general opinion, I might not be the person to ask about that because as I've talked to my peers and people that I know, I stand at a very optimistic view. Maybe it's just the opportunities that I've held that I see in my friends and people that I am around. I'm extremely optimistic for our future, for the state's future, being in programs such as 4-H and seeing how kids have grown and how they can get up and talk in front of people and keep records and be the future of our state.
Everybody agree with that? Disagree with that? Good to know. All right. Claire, some people have labeled your generation the nuns, N-O-N-E-S, because in many instances, millennials are not affiliated with a political party. They don't generally get involved with church groups and civic groups or other organizations. You think that's a fair label?
I couldn't really say because the area I come from, there is a huge amount of church involvement. And a very decisive point of where the students I go to school with stand politically.
Austin, the question that we always ask is, what do you see be the biggest issue facing North Carolina today? What's the thing that you think is sort of the numero uno issue?
Well, I really think that immigration is a huge issue. It's a national issue, but I also think that our state should have a say in what goes on, and I feel that that's one of the most important issues.
Joel, how would you rate how our legislature and our governor are handling the issues in North Carolina? Do you agree with what they're doing or disagree?
I have to say I both agree and disagree. It's a couple of things that I don't particularly like that they're doing, but as far as like education, like I'm a very big advocate for education, and I believe that if I was to give like a letter grade for education, I will give it a D, because we're not at where we could be in education.
What other things would you disagree with them about?
I would have to disagree with immigration laws and stuff like that. Like a lot of people think that the best way to solve an immigration problem is to just deport immigrants. But if we really be realistic and really be real, it's kind of it's you really can't just say do away with all immigrants, because at the end of the day, immigrants hold certain jobs or like things that regular people don't do. Like they have jobs and they fill places that immigrants don't.
Joel, what would you like to see the state doing that we're not doing?
Well, there's a lot of things that every state needs to be doing that they're not doing. However, I think that we're actually rated, I think, number 50 or about teachers in our state. And I think that teachers, it's not even the pay that teachers are getting, but the environment. I've done some work with elementary school teachers, and a lot of them are focusing on Common Core stuff, which I am necessarily against Common Core, but it does have to be approached in a certain way, and I feel like teachers think that they have a certain box that they have to fit into when they're teaching. So I think that it's really important for our teachers to know that they can use the Common Core to really educate our kids.
Claire, you mentioned that you wanted to be a school teacher. Do you see yourself living as good a life as your parents, about the same, or worse as far as standard of living is concerned for the future?
I can see myself living a much more diminished life. I won't have the opportunities because I won't have the same pay. I'll definitely have to draw back from a lot of things I grew up with to deal with the amount of stress that comes from teaching overcrowded classrooms while also not getting paid enough or respected enough to really.
But with that knowledge, you're still willing to do that. Mm-hmm. Interesting. How about you, Austin? You think you're going to be living the same standard of living, a better standard of living, or perhaps diminished?
Well, I think it's kind of uncertain with everything that's going on with our government right now, because there are a lot of really important issues that we're having trouble addressing and coping with, and I think that it could possibly be a negative effect on us.
Mm-hmm. So it's possible there would be less of a standard of living than what your parents have lived.
I think that is a possibility.
All right. We thank you for watching NC Spin on the air or on YouTube. Here's a reminder, there's much more on our website, ncspin.com, or NC Spin on Facebook. You'll find video footage not seen anywhere else, perspective pieces from panelists, and our weekly column. Be sure to get more debate for the Old North State on ncspin.com, NC Spin on Facebook, or on Twitter at NC Spin Tweets. When we come back, we're going to ask these 4-Hers about education.
NC Spin will return after these messages.
I'm Ron Elmer, professional investment advisor and CPA, not a professional politician. As state treasurer, I'll save millions in investment fees. Go to elmerfortreasurer.com. Paid by Citizens for Elmer.
Phones are getting smarter, cars more efficient, TVs bigger and more stunning. Imagine the same innovation from agriculture. Meet the Plant Sciences Initiative at NC State, a proposed state-of-the-art research complex where world-class researchers will tackle agriculture's toughest challenges, like feeding the world's rapidly growing population while preserving natural resources for future generations. Join Farm Bureau and NC State in moving North Carolina to the forefront of ag research in the world. Visit keepaggrowing.org.
Hey everyone, I'm Linda Loveland. If feeding your family safe, affordable foods is a priority for you, then join me in saying thanks to the North Carolina farmers who feed us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's say thanks to the farmers who feed your family at #ThankNCFarmers. To learn more about the foods we eat and the farm families who feed us, visit feedthedialoguenc.com. And be sure to thank North Carolina farmers.
We now return to NC Spin.
We'll talk now about education. Each of you is in school. We'd like to know how you feel about education issues. 3 are in public schools, 1's in a private school. There are many who believe we're not doing as good a job of educating this generation in preparation for the workforce and life in the future. So I'm going to ask you, using a letter grade of A to F, how would you grade education today? Joel, you mentioned in the last segment you'd give education a D. Tell us why you say that.
Well, first off, if you didn't know, North Carolina schools have lowered their grading scale to where now a 60 is passing where a 70 used to be passing. Me personally, I don't agree with that grading scale. Secondly, teachers' pay is really low for what they have to deal with. They're not getting enough respect nor resources. I actually know teachers who buy their own supplies and, stuff like that. And it's not what it could be.
So you didn't give them an F, but you gave them right close to it.
Yeah, I gave them close to it.
All right, Claire, how do you give them? What's your letter grade? You go into the classroom. How do you rate this?
F, totally, yes.
Tell us why.
I disagree with just about everything that is going on in our school systems. We have textbooks that are outdated. We have teachers who are dealing with huge student apathy. We have Common Core standards that we're being taught to a test rather than actually getting information that'll be relevant to real life.
Interesting. And yet you still want to go into this. All right. Austin, how do you give it a grade A to F?
Well, I'm in a private school, and I would have to give Greenfield an A because we have small class sizes. Our teachers are really passionate about what we learn, and they want to help us achieve our goal of being accepted to whatever college we want to go to. I can't really speak for public school because I've never been in a public school, but I feel that private school is definitely doing a great job to educate me.
And was best for you?
Yes, sir.
All right. Joa, A to F.
I would actually have to give our school system a B+. I'm at a small school as well, and I have a lot of small classes, and I also have opportunities to be in college classes because I'm at an early college. But I also interact some with public schools, and I really think it's what you put into it, because each individual can get out of school what you want to, and I think that it's really important to have a good attitude when going into school to get out as much as you possibly can.
So progressing from that, and Joa, I'll start with you again, what are your plans for the future? You plan to go to college, into the military, or go into the workforce?
I'll graduate with an associate's degree from a community college, and I hope to go to a 4-year university to study engineering. So I do plan on going into college.
And you said NC State was your choice.
NC State's my first choice, yes.
We'll tell them that. Austin.
Well, I'd really like to go to NC State. It would definitely be my first choice. But I would like to study something along the lines of mechanical engineering or possibly crop science.
Interesting. All right. Claire?
NC State is also my first choice. Appalachian is my second. I plan on, as I said, going into high school to be a history teacher. I eventually want to get my master's degree and then get my degree of education. And eventually I want to get into politics so that I can reform education.
And you can come take my place doing this show. Joel, what's your future plan?
My plan, well, I really want to go to Winston-Salem State University and go for broadcasting and communications to be a news anchor. So, yeah.
Interesting. All right. So you can take my place too.
Yeah.
All right, Claire, back to you. You said you want to become a high school history teacher. So what is the biggest problem facing education today? You mentioned several of them early on, but what do you think is the single biggest problem in education?
incentives to become a teacher. You've got overcrowded classrooms, and no matter how good a teacher is, you can't properly teach a classroom of 34 students. You're not getting paid enough. You're not getting the respect from students or from the public. Teachers, you hear people speak lowly when you say that you want to be a teacher. They're like, oh, really? They don't think there's a reason. So a lot of people who would have considered it feel like there's not that much of a good reason either.
And we're having problems in our schools of education attracting enough students to go to this right now. Interesting. All right. A lot of people say that we're spending too much time on testing and not enough time preparing students for the future. Joel, would you agree or disagree with that statement?
I would totally agree 100%, because like she said, they're forming us to test they're forming us to a test, like they're teaching us for a test. They're not teaching us like things we need in life, like how to balance a checkbook, how to budget our money, some children don't even know how to change a tire, you know, and I don't think that they're teaching us at least the basic necessities of life in order to progress in our life.
Interesting. What do you think, Joe, I know Austin's in a private school, but what do you think about the state taking money from public education to give to private schools, giving vouchers to students to go to parent schools? Does this allow parents more options for their students, or are we robbing the public schools?
I think the public school systems deserves the public's money. Private schools are privately funded, that's kind of in the name, and I think that should pretty much stay that way for sure.
Austin, you said you wanted to go to state, you wanted to go into engineering. We've seen the cost of a college education, even state-supported schools for in-state students, rising dramatically in recent years. Are you going to have to take out student loans? Will your parents pay for your education? Are you going to hope for scholarships, or are you going to have to get a job to help pay for it?
Well, I really hope to get some scholarships. I'll plan on applying for a few. But I'm very lucky to say that my parents have set up a good college fund for me, so I should not have to take out many loans, if any. But I really do hope to
That's very
work
uncommon
on scholarships.
today.
It is,
Yeah.
And I'm very appreciative for it.
Yeah. All right, so we've talked a little bit about the teacher pay issue. Everybody agrees that we're probably underpaying our teachers. So tell me, Claire, why aren't our politicians willing to raise that pay? What's the problem here, in your opinion?
There are a lot of budgetary issues in our state that they're trying to resolve, and I think that education was such a big source of money that money was going into education that they thought cutting that would help the state.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you sound like you're saying that they're balancing the budget on the backs of our public school teachers. Is that sort of the way you feel?
Absolutely.
Wow. And so they should change their priorities so far as spending is concerned. Is that?
I don't see what could be more important than education, because they tell us we're the future, and that's literally what we are.
All right, so I want to go around the horn here and ask everybody, if you could change one thing in our system of education today, what would it be, Austin?
I think that public school teachers deserve more respect than they're getting, because they have a very tough job, and I don't think people actually take the time to realize that they are making a sacrifice for the youth of our state.
Joe? What one thing would you change in public education if you could wave a magic wand?
It's definitely a loaded question. I would definitely say attitude towards education. A lot of kids go into school not wanting to be there, and a lot of that has to do with the teachers and them not being respected enough, so they don't really want to be there either. And I think that's one of the major things that should be changed.
Joel?
If I could change anything, it would have to be the student-to-teacher ratio, because for one teacher, they have like 30 students, and that's not a good enough environment for them to teach in and for them to teach people effectively and get more hands-on experience.
So what would be ideal in your opinion?
I think that for every one teacher, it should be like a 20-student ratio.
20 to 1. All right. Claire, what one thing would you change about education?
How it is so specific to one topic per class rather than what should be specific to the students. They're preparing us for the exact same thing despite so many things that we could go into. A doctor's not going to need to know about the War of 1812, and a history teacher won't need to know about sine, cosine, or tangent.
So make education more specific to the student, more relevant to the student. All right, when we come back after these messages, we're going to ask these 4-Hers what they think about the 2016 elections.
NC Spin will return after these messages.
Our state needs a treasurer with a professional investment background, a CPA, not a politician. I'm Ron Elmer, and I want to be your treasurer. Go to elmerfortreasurer.com, paid by Citizens for Elmer.
The cost of everything has gone up dramatically over the last 75 years. With one exception, keeping electricity affordable. That's the power of your co-op membership. Learn more at togetherwesave.com.
North Carolina's Touchstone Energy Cooperatives, looking out for you.
It's a fact. Patients who receive care in the medical home from a trusted family physician reduce healthcare costs through prevention, early detection, and affordable management of high-cost chronic diseases.
Every dollar invested in healthcare matters. Let's invest them wisely, building on North Carolina's medical home model. Better health begins with a medical home, a trusted family physician, the best return on our healthcare investment. Learn about the importance of medical homes at ournchealthcare.com.
You sleep on concrete till your body get immune to concrete.
My mom got my brother and I up and said, come on, we're leaving.
I became homeless in the beginning of this year.
When I was about 4 or 5 years old, our house caught fire.
I used to see my brother. If he see me, he'd turn and go the other direction.
We did the only thing that we could think of, and we went to a Salvation Army shelter.
You know, we don't have this, like, what's your background look like? We just say, what do you need?
I remember the man from the Salvation Army coming down with a box of clothes.
The Salvation Army officer bought my brother and I an ice cream cone.
Last week, my brother walked up to me, and he just started a conversation.
Today I've given my life to the Salvation Army because I remember what somebody did for me, my brother, and my mom over 30 years ago.
The Salvation Army for me means hope.
Compassion.
Family.
Support.
We now return to NC Spin.
The big newsmaker for 2016 is going to be the elections. Primary elections are due to be held March 15th. The general election in November. I want to ask each of you, do you consider yourself to be a Republican, a Democrat, or an unaffiliated voter? Austin, I'll start with you.
I'd say that I'm an unaffiliated voter, and I believe that it's too early in this race to make a decision on one particular candidate.
All right. Joel?
I consider myself a Libertarian Party, sort of unaffiliated, and yeah, I think that it's really hard to just pick one side.
Joel?
I would consider myself an unaffiliate because there are things that I agree with and disagree with both the Republican and Democratic Party.
Claire?
I'm certainly independent. I like the freedom to make my choices not based on a party and more on my actual opinions.
As I said earlier in the show, this is indicative of your generation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is, I suspect that many of your classmates are the same way. So I want to ask you, Joel, you want to become a news anchor. What do you think of the political climate today?
I think the political realm is a really aggressive, it could be really an aggressive field to go into, and it can really be kind of, kind of messy to go into because if you don't have the right mindset. But I think it's also challenging, and I like a challenge. So when I go into the political field, I will want to basically give a more neutral standpoint.
All right, we've had all these political debates that have been taking place, and I'm sure y'all have followed every single one of them, every minute of all of these debates. So I want to ask you, in looking at the debates, have you picked a candidate, and if so, who would it be? Joel?
I definitely have not picked a candidate. I think it's too early.
Who are you leaning toward?
Well, people right now are just getting their name out. If I couldn't even say. I mean,
that's the most political answer. I could get my other panel to learn how to answer questions this way. Austin, who would you pick?
I also think it's too early to pick a candidate. I'd probably lean towards somebody more on the Republican side, but I'd like to hear more from each candidate and vote for whoever I feel is
Claire,
best.
are you going to give me an answer to that question?
Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders.
I like that he has a more hometown view, that he's not into big money, big business. I like that. Well, as an up-and-coming college student, I just like how he is addressing college-based issues.
Okay. All right. Joel?
I probably have to say the same thing. I'm kind of uncertain who to pick with, but if I could lean towards anybody, it would probably be Hillary.
Hillary. All right. So let's take this down a notch, down to the governor's race in North Carolina. Governor Pat McCrory is going to be running for re-election. Attorney General Roy Cooper is going to be running against him. Between those two candidates, Claire, who would you pick?
Couldn't quite say. I don't agree with some of the things that Pat McCrory has done, and I don't know enough about his candidate.
All right, Joel?
Like she said, I don't know enough about his the candidate running against him, but I do agree with some of the things that Pat McCrory is doing, such as the $2,000 bond referendum.
Joel?
I tend to like Pat McCrory. I worked a lot of, was a Senate page this summer.
Ah,
and,
yes.
I was able to kind of see what was going on firsthand. And it is a mess. It's a mess up there, but I kind of like where Pat McCrory is going a lot of time.
Austin.
Okay, well, I'd really like to hear more from both sides. I haven't heard much about what each of their plans are, and I think that would help me decide on which candidate to pick.
All right. We'll be back after these messages.
And is brought to you in part by the North Carolina Farm Bureau. The Farm Bureau and Agriculture. We keep North Carolina growing.
Hey everyone, I'm Linda Loveland. If feeding your family safe, affordable foods is a priority for you, then join me in saying thanks to the North Carolina farmers who feed us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's say thanks to the farmers who feed your family at #ThankNCFarmers. To learn more about the foods we eat and the farm families who feed us, visit feedthedialoguenc.com. And be sure to thank North Carolina farmers.
Clean transportation options can help you fuel what matters.
We're fueling what matters to us by converting our fleet of collection trucks over to compressed natural gas. It's a good, smart business decision, and having the air cleaner is something that benefits all the families that work with us.
We use biodiesel in our heavy equipment. We've got propane in a lot of our police cars, and we've really embraced the electric car. Join the City of Raleigh and fuel what matters.
To learn how you can fuel what matters, visit fuelwhatmatters.org.
Phones are getting smarter, cars more efficient, TVs bigger and more stunning. Imagine the same innovation from agriculture. Meet the Plant Sciences Initiative at NC State, a proposed state-of-the-art research complex where world-class researchers will tackle agriculture's toughest challenges, like feeding the world's rapidly growing population while preserving natural resources for future generations. Join Farm Bureau and NC State in moving North Carolina to the forefront of ag research in the world. Visit keepaggrowing.org.
We hope you've enjoyed hearing the opinions of our young 4-H students that we've had on this show. We've enjoyed our relationship all through the years with 4-H, and we particularly like to work with Sarah Cochin and all of the crowd over at 4-H. And we thank you all for being with us. You're very articulate, and we're very impressed with what you've had to say. Well, you heard our spin on the issues of the day. To stay informed all during the week, give your feedback, and read my weekly column, be sure to visit our website, ncspin.com, or catch NC Spin on Facebook. And we hope you'll join us next week when we'll have more balanced debate for the Old North State and return to our regular format. Until then, stay informed, happy Thanksgiving, watch out for the spin.